Would you repeat that? I'm going to record you.
Well, just allow however many years they've been in public school or institutional school, allow that many months as a transition.
Okay.
So, not to say that you're not working and trying, to make progress in those months, but understanding, take a little stress off yourself and off them that you're both learning a new way. All right, so it's not something that you have to hit the ground running and be an expert at the first day, because just adjust your expectations, I guess, is the idea there. Adjust your expectations and know that you're going through a transition and you're going to try some things that are not going to work for you, but that doesn't mean you failed. That means you've learned something, you've learned what doesn't work, and you can move on to try something else. Okay? So just never feel like you failed just because you found something that doesn't work. But I'm excited for each one of you who are starting this homeschool journey with your children. I want to encourage you and just know you may already be feeling a sense of overwhelm in the magnitude, perhaps, of what you're about to take on. I have good news and bad news for you. I don't know that the sense of overwhelm ever really goes away. That's where we live. As homeschoolers, that's where we live. But you learn to cope with it, and you learn to just take one day at a time, one subject at a time, and just, you're learning as you go. Understand that you are just as much a student here as your child. Okay? You are capable. You don't need a degree. You don't need specialized training. You don't need experience. These are your children. You know them, and you can teach them. You do not need, there will be somebody ask you, well, you're not a teacher, and I'm assuming that you're not teachers, but maybe you do have an education degree. I don't know. It's really not I wouldn't even consider it a consideration. Am I qualified? Yes, you're qualified. You're their parent, okay? Or their grandparent. You are qualified to teach them. And all you need is a love for your child and a thirst for knowledge, because you're going to learn just as much as they are. I have found, as I homeschool my children, I'm like, I took this as a kid. I had U.S. history or, whatever. But I learned so much more teaching them than I ever remember from my own school years. So, 3 things I want to 3 pointers, I guess, I'll give you as you start out your homeschooling journey. First of all, be present. Be together. Independent learning is good, and because you guys are not starting with little bitties, you're starting with 10 and 11-year-old kids, you will be giving them something and expecting them to sit down and do it. Ask you questions if they need help, but that you don't have to sit right there and hold their hand with everything. So that is an expectation that's reasonable, but I would encourage you to be as involved as learning together as much as you can. Even at 10, 11 years old, read to them. Not everything, but read to them good books. Maybe they have to read their history by themselves, but then their history book by themselves, but like a good classic novel, you're reading to them. You read together. So independent learning is good, but too much of that kind of brings isolation, and it sends some unintentional messages like, this is something you have to learn, but I'm not interested in it. And if you want your kid to learn it, you've got to show that interest, that it's important to you too. Okay? So caring enough to homeschool is caring enough to be involved and right there in the nitty-gritty, learning along with them. Also be a worker. Set an example in how hard you work to learn or to teach, or to be ready to teach them. learning is work. It's your kids' work. And as their homeschool teacher now, it's your work. It could be hard sometimes, but we want our kids to learn to do hard things, don't we? And so we have to set that example. So be together, be a hard worker, but third, be fun. Take the time to plan some things that are enjoyable. Find ways that your kids will enjoy learning something and steer that way as often as you can. Play games, go on field trips, make crafts, make recipes, do all these things that bring enjoyment to school, to learning, that aren't just pen and paper and textbook stuff, okay? So make learning fun. Find out what is fun for your kid, and try to direct learning that way as much as you can. If you've had a chance to walk around out here, you can tell there's so many resources. It's like that was probably the biggest thing for me that led to my sense of overwhelm when I started. How do I pick the right thing? If there's all these options, then there must be a right option, and all the others are wrong options. And it's true that there's going to be some that are not good options for you. But the only way you find that out is to try it. And none of them are bad options. There's just going to be some that are better for you and your learners than others. Okay.
How do you decide to choose
Exactly.
that to start
Thank you.
with?
Okay.
Yeah. Rather
Well,
than spend hundreds of dollars and years
don't
of
spend
trying
hundreds
to.
of dollars.
Yeah.
Don't spend hundreds of dollars. Not on just like one curriculum. I will say, I enjoyed a lot of success with My Father's World. So this is their magazine. I don't know how old this magazine is. But anyway, I bought my first set on eBay. It was a couple $100 used, but I didn't just get one subject there. I got a huge box. I got more books than just these. I got a huge box of books for that $200. So, don't spend hundreds of dollars on just one curriculum, I guess is what I would say. And listen to other homeschool moms. Get involved. If you can, come to Crossville Heights, come to our co-op classes. Get involved with other moms that way, or however you can, get involved with other moms and listen to what they say, listen to what they've tried. And they might say, oh, we tried such and so, and we didn't like it because it was this, or because this, and this. And you might hear those reasons that they didn't like it and be like, yeah, but we kind of like this. Or we kind of like this, so maybe it'd be something for you to try, even if somebody else doesn't like it. Or they may have a rave review about something. And especially, if they've got an 11-year-old boy and you have an 11-year-old boy and they really like something, then that might be something you go out, and try to find and use for yourself. But yeah, listen to other moms, and don't spend hundreds of dollars. I would say, top of the list, consider two things in your curriculum to start off. First of all, good books. Good, heavy lifting books. I mean, I'm not talking about the Iliad or, anything like that.
Classics.
But have you ever heard of the Newbery Award?
Yeah.
Okay, you've heard of Newbery Award. That's a book. That's a type of book that I would say that's a good book. I've been disappointed once or twice with a Newbery book, but very rarely. So go for good books. These are books that you would read to them. If it's a little above their reading level, read it to them. If it is their reading level, then that could be something that is their independent reader. But go for good books.
What about, do you need any different curriculum, like where I've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old? Do I need a curriculum for each, or can you kind of combine?
Many things you can combine. That's something that I liked My Father's World for. And there are other companies that do this type of thing that my father's world does. So like for the science and history and Bible, they'd be together. Of course, a 10 and a 12-year-old are likely to be on different levels for math. And then maybe their independent readers would be different levels, but what you read to them is the same, you know? So you can combine on so much. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more too.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's good. Ask a question whenever. A term that you might, I don't know. Have you ever heard the term twaddle?
Twaddle?
I think it's a made-up word.
Twaddle.
Twaddle. There is a lady who has a whole method of homeschooling. I think I don't think she's alive anymore, but it's called the Charlotte Mason method of homeschooling. It's a very gentle way of learning, a very, I guess you'd say, organic way of learning. But she, as far as I know, she coined the term twaddle to mean like empty books, worthless, low-level books. Okay, not to offend anybody, any fans, but Harry Potter would be twaddle. Okay, as compared to the more classic literature that when you read it, first of all, it inspires. Second of all, it expands. It expands your vocabulary, your ideas, your and I'm not saying that Harry Potter's an evil book. I'm just saying it's not high literature. Okay, so it would be something like in the summer, especially in the summer. But if you have a reader, they could do their schoolwork and then be like, they can also have some fun book like that they want to just read. Okay, go ahead. My girls were big Nancy Drew fans. That was not that's a good book. They liked it and whatever. I encouraged them to read it, but it wasn't something that I would consider high literature. Okay, so it's something that they would read on their own time, or in the summers were filled with Nancy Drew, you know. So anyway, but good books. Be a frequent visitor of your library.
Oh, yes.
Use interlibrary loan. So if your library doesn't have a book, they can get it for you. Ask the librarian about interlibrary loan. If she's reluctant to use interlibrary loan, too bad. My librarians, I'm from Bledsoe County. My librarians loved me coming in and getting. I would fill this bag with interlibrary loan books. If we were studying alligators, I would say, hey, could you give me a bunch of books on alligators? And they would load me up, you know, and order all sorts of books. Because Bledsoe County is a smaller county. Our libraries are a lot smaller. I've never been to the one here in Cumberland
This
County.
one's fantastic,
Okay.
and they're very helpful that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think this library is I'm
It's
sure
big.
bigger than our
big.
library, but there's still limits to it, and there's still, if you want books on something, on a particular topic or a particular time frame or whatever, they may have some, but if they'll get some from interlibrary loan, it really opens up the possibilities. And it's not something that you have to take all those books home and read every single one. Some of them are going to be picture books. Just because they're 10 and 11 years old, don't discount picture books. I think kids love to have, I mean, who doesn't love pictures, right? But secondly, a book that they can just like flip through and that was an easy read, or I just flipped through and looked at the pictures, but they still learned something. Kids love that, and it helps you. So, yes, anything from picture books to novels. If you're looking at a particular topic or something, you can get those through interlibrary loan. This has always been my book bag, my library bag. And there are times when my kids were younger that, like I said, I only have one at home now. He's a sophomore in high school, so the fun part's over. But there were times that I would just say, okay, we're learning about, I don't know, we could be learning about Greek culture, you know, and so I had a bag full of books about Greece and Greek myths and Greek heroes and whatever. And I said, I want you to go take 3 books out of the book bag and just go look at them. They wouldn't have to read everything. These had a lot of pictures in them and everything. So part of their assignment for the day was to go get 3 books and just look at the pictures. So good books, lots of books. And then, of course, like I've already said several times, read to them. Read to them. Something that might be a little bit more book than they want to conquer, or more like the words are, maybe it's not this big, but the words in the book are more than they want to labor through and like, oh, that's hard reading. No. Read to them. They learn so much by you reading too. So, and then the second consideration when you're thinking about what curriculum do I buy? Good books, first of all. You don't even have to buy them, you can get them from the library. And secondly, blank books. So like just a notebook, whether it's plain white sketch paper or lined paper like this, it doesn't have to be expensive. So that they can take what they're learning, what they're seeing, and put something down on paper. So you don't have to have a writing class. You can have a nature journal, and they can find some interesting flower or bug, or it snowed today, and or the roads were flooded. I remember looking through my son's nature journal here last night.
May I?
Sure.
Okay, good.
And he wrote something about the roads were flooded, and he drew a picture and he wrote it, and so then you're getting a little composition there. So some of the stuff he found
I
something,
love that.
and we used contact paper to just put it on the paper,
Nice.
and then he wrote the date and some sentences. Here he drew a picture of eastern meadowlark. We found out what it was called, so you're looking up and have some nature books if you have some of those at home.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean, blank books. Make use of blank books. As they get a little older, those blank books will be used a little differently. So you might use whatever science experiments you have. They need to write a lab report. Okay? So again, this is them writing something that's not like it's not something they have to just like come up with out of their own head. That's sometimes can be the hardest part for kids who don't just naturally have that baked. Okay, this is something you did. This is an experiment that you did, and they just have to write down what they did. What were the things? What were the things that they had to collect? And then first we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this. Now these are the results. This happened, right? And all the time they're able to practice their sentence structure, their spelling, all that kind of thing is practiced. But you're not having you're not having to have a grammar class. When you're starting out, I would suggest don't try to have every class. All these classes that they have in schools, they've had math, and they've had science, and they've had grammar, and they've had composition, and they've had reading class, and they've had what have I not listed? Social studies, history, all sorts of things. Okay, and all that's great, and you can ramp up to that, but don't feel like you have to start having every box checked. Okay?
Oh, that's great news.
Don't have every box checked. Take it easy on yourself. Especially, remember I said, if they've been in school for 5 years, you have a transition period of 5 months.
Right.
That being said, make them use their time not on like, okay, we did our bare minimum, and now they can go off and play video games.
Yeah.
So don't let too much of your time be used with stuff like that. just like they wouldn't be in school playing video games. I don't think they are playing video games in school. I hope not. Still make them do worthy things with that time, even if you're like, okay, I have taught as much as I can today. Well, maybe they go outside. Maybe they shoot some hoops. Maybe they go for a nature walk. Maybe they write a letter to, if you've got, my mother lives out of state, so it was, go write a letter to grandma. You know, stuff like that. That is still using their time in worthy ways. But it's not like, now I have to prepare another class. I have to prepare another class.
And I have a question then about that. You're saying that it's not necessary to do every class every day and to, because it's homeschooling, and that's great. Is there somebody that you have to report to? Are there requirements of things that because they're being homeschooled, that they have to accomplish, and they have to report? Oh, not until high school.
Not until high school.
Okay.
So that's something that takes a lot of pressure off you as homeschool moms, that you don't have there. When you went to, I don't know how much you. I don't remember being all that aware of it when I was in high school, but you had to have credits.
Right.
You had to have 3 science credits, 4 math credits, 4 English credits. Those are the credits. That is in high school. You don't have to worry about it yet. Okay. Nobody has a kid in high school.
Yeah, except you.
I have a kid in high school, but I've already had all the fun stuff too. So.
But I mean, so record keeping then, depending on the curriculum that you use, at least from what little research I've done, there's certain record keeping that you've done this class and you've done this class and you've done this class and now you've taken this test and you've dated and assigned, that's been completed. And are those all things that need to be done depending on what curriculum you're using?
Well,
and I'm talking about PACE in this particular case.
Okay.
PACE.
Well, I would just say that these are my records.
Ah, okay.
These are my records.
I gotcha.
2014.
Oh, okay.
So
11 years ago.
He was 12.
Okay.
So this is right near to the age of kids that you have. Some of this.
So if anybody was to ask, aside from any kind of an assessment that he might have to take later on or whatever, you have all of what you've kept and saved. And
I can tell you in 20 years of high school, no one's asked.
Okay, that's good information.
Nobody comes to your door.
Okay.
I mean, unless they hear you abusing your kids or something.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
of course.
I don't know what your family situations are. If you're divorced and you have custody of your kid, does your ex-husband approve of you homeschooling? That kind of thing could complicate issues.
Yeah.
I do know of times when somebody wanted to homeschool, but their ex-husband did not approve of that, and they were not allowed. Like the court wouldn't approve that. They had to send their kid to school. So, in a divorce situation, I've not experienced that, but I've heard. So that does complicate things. But if you have your nuclear family is intact, I'm just saying. Nobody comes to your door.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't.
Good.
They don't have time for that.
Good.
So anyways, this was his notebook at the time, and he created his own little thing here. I don't know what it is.
For science. That was his
He's
science
22
notebook.
now, so this is very dear to me.
How adorable. You bet.
So science papers. This is some art. I mean, it's really, really simple. He traced his hand, then we took a ruler and did all the straight lines, and then in the void where his hand had been, we did curved lines.
That is very cool. So where did you get these ideas?
A lot of these ideas, a lot of these experiments did come from my Father's World curriculum.
Okay.
But these are books. If you are interested in something like that, you can look at here and be like, oh, I want to try this book. I don't have to buy the whole set.
Right.
The thing I like about my Father's World, it's not, most of it's not like a textbooky kind of thing. They're real books. Okay, so it's kind of a combination of like real books and some textbook type things.
Okay. Okay.
But I'll get to where you can get some ideas for that anyways.
Okay.
You don't
Great.
have to have a curriculum for everything to start out with. You can start out, I would say, 2 things. Get real disciplined on math and reading. Those 2 things. If your kid can read well, the world is open to them. They can learn anything they want to learn.
See, that's what we're struggling with with my son.
Okay.
Like, he's fixing to be 10 next week, and he still says he can't read.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to go back and go over more basics before we get to where he should be at now.
Okay. Well, another good thing with homeschooling is there's not where he should be. It's where he is, and we're going to improve from there. Okay? So if he will read books that only a 2nd grader is supposed to be able to read, okay, good, he's reading books. You know?
That's right.
And he's going to come from there.
Yeah.
And he's going to grow from there. And he doesn't have to worry anymore about the kid in the next desk that's reading books like this.
That's right.
And he's reading books like this. And,
Yeah.
you know, feeling that comparison. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. So that might take so much pressure off. I've heard of this happening. It takes so much pressure off him that he is more able to learn than he was before.
Okay.
So,
I know we're in spelling. They've done spelling this year as multiple choice. So instead of learning how to spell the words, if you can look at the paper and think it's right, then you just pick one.
well, you know, that's great for visual learning.
Yeah, but
there's a book from Cynthia somebody, The Way They Learn. That would be helpful to any of you. The Way They Learn it's not a very long book, but it talks about the different types of learners. I am a visual learner, so it took me a while to realize my first child is not a visual learner. And why is she such a terrible speller? Because she's not a visual learner. And I would guess that probably anyone who's not a visual learner has a hard time with spelling. So, because so much of how we learn to spell is, does it look right? I can tell you that a word is spelled right if it looks right.
That's right.
You know, because I've seen it in my reading and stuff like that. But